What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something I think is extremely important, and with opening day just 3 weeks away here in Missouri, some states in the next couple weeks, what I want to talk to you guys about is shot placement. It may be something that seems a little rudimentary, and some of that is because of misinformation or false information that's been kind of put out over the years, or just taught without really any thought to what is being talked about and accepted generally by the community. And it may surprise you a little bit, as it even surprised me, on what proper shot placement actually looks like and what shot you guys should be striving for whenever it comes time to actually put all this hard work and preparation that you've done for the entire off season into motion in the moment of truth, when that whitetail or anything that walks on four legs, for that matter, is standing in front of you. So let's get right into talking about shot placement. Let's jump right into just your regular old broadside shot that everybody's going for. It's the golden standard, wait for it to turn broadside, and it's not a bad way to think. It gives you the largest target to shoot at and the opportunity to hit the most vital organ and do the most damage. So this shot right here, this isn't staged. This is a shot that I just took on camera from about 17 yards. This, for me, is a perfect shot. This is a textbook shot that I would try to make all day, every day, if I can, and I do my part right, on a whitetail or any animal that has four legs. Why do I say any animal that has four legs? Because all four-legged animals have generally the same skeletal structure, which I'll get into in a second. And in this situation, you'll see that as far as the placement height-wise, I'm a little bit lower than center, which I'm totally okay with that. Really, anything between or within the area of where the bottom third meets the middle third, anywhere in that area is where I'm going for. That is the spot that I want to hit. So anywhere inside here is perfect. Why is that? Well, because if you look at this little anatomy cutout that I did, you have your lungs, and this is about the size of, the average whitetail deer's lungs, and then you have your heart, which, even though I understand this is backwards, it would be more like that. Your heart is in lungs converge in that area of the bottom third where it meets the middle third. So any opportunity that you have to put a shot a little bit lower than center is best, because it gives you the chance of hitting both lungs and the heart, as well as whatever major clusters of blood vessels and arteries that there are here at the front side of the heart and lungs, which is optimal. But let's talk now. We've got the up and down, the height. Let's talk about left to right. You'll see, by some standards, I put this shot pretty far forward. You'd think, oh, you just shot that deer in the shoulder. Let me explain. This is where the waters get kind of muddied from not only information that's been put out over the years that is somewhat inaccurate, but the printouts of the vital organs on 3D targets, like this hog right here. You can see the vital organs and the 10 ring are all to this side of the leg completely, for the most part. The same with this deer. Everything is pretty well from just inside the leg back almost into the liver or kidneys. So the placement of an animal's vitals that walks on four legs, I'll remove this arrow so we're able to kind of see. You'll have to excuse the use of a cardboard box here for my example, but the way that a whitetail's vitals are actually placed inside of its thoracic cavity are something more like this. The front part of the lungs and the heart is all directly above the front leg. If you trace a straight line up from the front leg, that is where the heart and front of lungs is at. It's not back here. It's, and you know, which would, like I say, some targets say that you should almost be shooting the guts in order to hit lungs, and that's not the case. It's all the way up here, like this, like you see in this drawing here. So if you look at the front leg, trace a straight line up, where that converges with the point between the bottom third and middle third, like we talked about, anywhere a little bit lower than center, that is the perfect kill zone, which is where I put that shot just a second ago, right in there. You might be thinking, Ethan, the shoulders right there, their leg bones in the way, you're not going to get any penetration. This is where some of the misinformation comes in. Everybody always said, shoot, you know, shooting behind the shoulder, shoot behind the shoulder, aim behind the crease of the leg. If you get inside that crease, you're going to hit the shoulder. That's just not the case. And why? Basic anatomy. A deer, or any animal that walks on four legs, their leg bone comes up and makes a knuckle right here. This is like their elbow. This is like how we have our elbow right here. That's where that happens for them, is right in here. And then once you go past here, the leg bones and the large major leg bone actually protrudes forward. So you have their long descending leg bone, you have a large knuckle, and then their next bone angles forward. And then the actual scapula, or the shoulder blade of a whitetail deer, the scapula is up here. You have a leg bone that descends right here, and then their lower leg bones that go straight down. So, whereas we were always told in the past, don't shoot in front of the leg, which would be right here, shoot behind the crease, you actually have all of that to shoot at. There's nothing in front of that crease in the middle part, in the middle portion of the body. There's nothing in front of that crease except more rib cage until you get to probably about right in here somewhere in front of the leg. So as long as you are center line of that front leg and a little bit below center line of the torso height-wise, you're shooting into nothing but rib cage, regardless of what anybody says. The shoulder bone is way up here. That's where the scapula is. So as long as you don't shoot too high, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Shooting very high up in a tree stand could be cause for concern because of downward angle and ending up hitting a shoulder, because they're trying to account for the angle. They're shooting that same spot and hitting shoulder blade, so they just said shoot behind the shoulder and shoot back here. That's not necessarily the answer. So perfect placement is going for the front of the lungs, heart, all in one shot as much as possible. There's major arteries, there's the aorta, there's the pulmonary artery, the spira vena cava, all that is, and a ton of large vein clusters and blood vessels. All of that is on the front side of the heart and lungs, right there. And that is where you should be shooting. Now, let's get into angles. Take all that shot placement consideration of putting the arrow directly up from the leg and convert that into some of the different angles. I know this isn't a 3D target, so it's kind of hard to understand and grasp it, but you kind of have to use your imagination and be able to see in third dimension a little bit when it comes to shooting at off angles. Just because a deer is not perfectly broadside doesn't mean you should totally neglect taking that shot, it still has the potential to be a very good lethal shot. The way that I teach people is to look at how that deer is standing. They have two legs, right? Whatever you have to do to get that arrow, conceptualize that that arrow has to pass at whatever, severe off angle you're dissecting that animal, that arrow has to pass at the appropriate angle. So if you're shooting with that animal very quartered away, or if, let's say, their leg's back a little bit, aim to shoot in front of that backside leg, and more than likely you're going to stay into that kill zone, rather than just simply aiming to shoot right at that spot and potentially only catching maybe the front of one lung and coming out the base of the neck. So that means shooting like this. That's not ideal, because you're not going to catch very much vital organ. Will it do the job? Possibly. But if you're shooting a quartering away shot and you aim maybe to go right in front of that back leg, that angle, you'll probably end up, your shot's going to get pulled back just a little bit. But what's going to happen is it's going to angle in and do all the same damage that you were doing shooting up here directly above the leg. But understanding a deer's body position and the position of that offside leg is very critical to look for, because perception is not always reality. You may think that that deer is not quartering away as hard as it is, but deer have such a long bodies and they twist them in ways that is kind of deceiving, that that deer could be quartering a lot more than you think it actually is. So that's why for me, if I'm shooting quartering away, I always aim the best that I can on a marginal quartering away shot to go right in front of the offside leg. Or if they're very quartering away at all, I may decide to shoot for between their legs, and that's where I want to end up hitting. So that would put my impact way back here, but it's going to come out between the legs, and I'm going to take out all those same vital organs. So as you go back on a quartering away shot, your point of aim has to continue to creep back. So the demonstration of the arrow and the angle, the more that animal is quartering away, or the more you are to the backside of that animal, the further that shot has to creep back. As you see, that arrow rotates back for the angle, I'm coming back further and further and further and further. So where if it's a really far quartering away shot, I'm way back here, but I'm going to get the same results. Now, a frontal shot. Frontal shots are very controversial. Many guys say that they will not ever take one, that they refuse to do it, that they don't believe in it, it's unethical. I'm here to tell you, a frontal shot is devastating. First of all, if you're shooting a hunting arrow that is well built, like this arrow right here, this arrow is between 12 and 13 grains per pound of draw weight. That's a plenty heavy arrow for this bow at 47.5 pounds. This is an almost 600 grain total arrow setup. It's going to penetrate, and it's going to get in where I need it to get into with the proper amount of force matched with the draw weight of my bow. If you have a good heavy hunting arrow and a good heavy broadhead, I'm shooting 200 grains up front, actually 225 total with insert, it's going to get in there. It's going to penetrate, and it's going to do the job. If you have a heavy arrow, it may not make any difference whatsoever. I talked about that leg bone that comes forward. Could that interfere with a quartering two shot? Of course it could, because if you're trying to shoot on very much quartering two, you're going to end up smoking that bone. Again, a heavy arrow with the right broadhead and setup tuned to your bow. I'm not saying that you don't have to worry about hitting that bone, but there's a much greater potential. That arrow is still going to do its job, even if it does connect with that bone, because it's going to either shoot through it or split it. or even if it does deflect off a little bit, you're going to get plenty of penetration. So regardless of how much quartering to that animal is, you have to still shoot for that heart in front of lungs. If that animal is facing directly to you, put that shot in the brisket. Come down to the base of the neck, in line with the middle of the torso, and put it right in the base of their neck, or bury it right into their brisket. And I promise you, if you're shooting the right arrow setup, you are going to get more than adequate amount of penetration on that deer shooting right at the brisket. But as that angle decreases and you start worrying about that leg bone, just remember the actual positioning placement. As you get less and less quartering, you can start aiming more and more to the position that you're trying to actually hit. So on a quartering 2 shot, you really are going to have to tuck up pretty close to the base of the neck, usually, in order to get the results that you want. And that's why some people say they won't take a quartering 2 shot, because man, if you get on a quartering 2 shot, if you get very much this way at all, you're shooting all back of lungs, or maybe even just one lung. Look again for the positioning of that deer's legs. The front legs and the shoulders tell a lot more about what that deer is doing than the rest of its body does. You may think that deer is broadside, but its shoulders are turned this way. Its vitals are at a quartering 2 angle. You're going to have to shoot further forward. Look at the deer's shoulders, look at the position of the legs. That is what you have to pay attention to, because just basing it solely off the body position can be deceiving. A lot of deer have been lost that way. So don't be scared to take that quartering 2 or that frontal shot. It is a wicked, deadly shot. It puts them down quickly, humanely. And as long as you have a good arrow and a good arrow set up to your bow, you should not have anything to worry about. I can tell you that right now. And moving past that, shooting from an elevated position, I encourage you, unless you're someone that likes to hunt 30 foot up in a tree, that is not me. Higher is not always better. We may talk about that in another video. The higher you get, you're giving yourself less vitals, because those vitals are growing narrower and narrower of a target the higher up that you get. The lower you get, the bigger target that you have to shoot at. Consider it like that, right? So place yourself at a reasonable height off the ground. I like between 12 and 15 feet. And if you're between 12 and 15 feet, as long as you're shooting from a tree stand, just shoot for the center of the body. Shoot for the center of the body rather than between the middle and lower third. Shoot for right in the center of the body. And I promise you, you're going to get similar results. You're going to smoke that heart, and that deer is not going to go anywhere. But don't aim for much higher than center, because if you start getting up into that upper third, you will hit that scapula. And if you guys are the kind of person, or someone watching this, you're the kind of person that likes to just be cautious, play it safe, I get that, I do. If it makes you feel more comfortable to shoot at the crease rather than in front of the crease, just shoot at the crease. Put it right back here where you can see I put some other arrows. There's nothing wrong with that. Middle of the deer, right in the crease, you're going to kill that deer all day long. But if you want to actually get in to where the real killer is, which is the heart, the front of the lungs, the major blood vessels, arteries, veins, and still the front of both lungs, and the largest air passages in the lungs, that if you disrupt those, you're doing way more intense damage. If you want to hit that spot, you have to aim right above that leg and a little bit lower than center line. If you're confident and you have practiced and trained like you should, and that deer's body positioning, comfort level, attitude, and awareness is in a way that you feel very confident in making that shot, if that's what you're aiming for, do it. And I promise you guys, this fall, you're going to have way shorter blood trails. You're going to kill way more deer. And I think that you're going to end up punching a lot more tags than you were before. So anyway, guys, this video has been long enough. Again, opening day is coming up so quickly. Keep practicing, stay out there on the range. Don't get complacent yet. It's not here yet. There's still time to train. There's still time to get better. So take advantage of every opportunity you have. Guys, I want to thank you for watching this video and checking out my channel. Thank you for all the views and the support. Welcome all my new subscribers. I'm glad to have you guys here and hope you guys are here for the long haul. Again, stay out there, guys. Keep practicing. Get out in the outdoors. Stay safe and shoot straight.